All right, let's dive into something that is just so crucial for anyone putting video out into the world: accessibility. We're going to break down exactly how to create perfect captions for your videos, and we'll be using the official Web Content Accessibility Guidelines as our guide. But first, just do me a favor. Take a second and really think about this question. What if you couldn't hear my voice right now? How would you get this information? What part of the message would you be missing out on? It's a simple thought, but it gets right to the very heart of why we're talking about this today. You know, for millions of people who are deaf or hard of hearing, this isn't just some thought experiment. It's their reality. An uncaptioned video is basically a silent movie, a locked box of information. The whole experience is just broken. But thankfully, there's a really powerful and elegant solution.
And yep, you guessed it, that solution is captions. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Oh yeah, captions, the text at the bottom of the screen. And you're not wrong, but there's a little more to it than that. So let's get crystal clear on what captions are, and maybe more importantly, what they are not.
So here's the official definition: a synchronized text alternative for both speech and non-speech audio. Now let's pause on that second part, non-speech audio, because that is the absolute key. This means captions aren't just a transcript of the words being said. No, they have to convey the entire audio experience.
And this is exactly where we need to clear up a super common mix-up. People use the words captions and subtitles interchangeably all the time, but they have totally different jobs. You see, subtitles assume you can hear everything just fine. They're just there to translate the dialogue into another language. Captions, on the other hand, assume you can't hear the audio at all, so they have to describe every single important sound. So, what goes into a really effective, compliant caption? It's not just about typing out the words correctly. If you want to paint that full audio picture for someone, you really need 3 core components. You can kind of think of it like this, these 3 pillars. First, of course, you need the dialogue. Second, you've got to identify who's talking, especially if it's not obvious from the video. And third, this is the one people forget all the time, you absolutely must describe important non-speech audio. I mean, just look at this official example for how to caption classical music. It doesn't just say music playing. That's useless. Instead, it conveys the mood, calm melody with a slow tempo. See, that gives the viewer the vital context, the feeling that a hearing person would get instantly. It's brilliant. Now, like with most rules, there's always one very specific exception. There is a single scenario where you actually don't need captions. And understanding this is key, because it'll help you avoid some really common mistakes down the line. Okay, so the rule says captions aren't needed if the video is a media alternative for text. What on earth does that mean? Well, essentially, it's just a video version of text that's already written out on the page, almost like a read-along. But, and believe me, this is a very big but, 2 things have to be true for this to apply. 1, the video cannot, under any circumstances, add any new information. If the video says even one little thing that isn't in the original text, it's not an alternative anymore. And 2, it has to be clearly labeled so the user knows exactly what they're looking at. So, knowing those rules and that one big exception leads us right to the most common ways people get this wrong. Let's just walk through the top 3 failures so you can spot them a mile away and make sure you never make them. The first failure is without a doubt the most common one I see out there: incomplete captions. This is what happens when you only write down the dialogue but you forget to include all those important sounds, which means you're only telling part of the story. Imagine a scene in a movie. A character says, "I'm not afraid of you," but at that exact moment, a door slams shut just off screen. If your caption only shows the dialogue, the viewer misses all the tension, right? The entire meaning of that moment is just gone. Without the sound, you don't have the full story. Period.
All right, failure number 2 is falling into what I like to call the more info trap. This happens when you try to use that media alternative exception we talked about, but your video actually has extra details or explanations that weren't in the original text.
The logic here is actually super simple. The very second your video adds any new value, anything that wasn't already written on the page, it stops being an alternative. It's now its own piece of content, and that means, yep, it requires captions. And that brings us to our third common failure, the missing label. And this one is sneaky because it can happen even if you follow the no more info rule perfectly. If you have a video alternative, but you don't clearly say that's what it is, you're just creating confusion. Seriously, just think about it from the user's perspective. They read a big block of text.
Then they see a video right next to it. What are they supposed to think? Does it just repeat what they read? Does it have new essential info they might miss? Without a clear label like, watch a video version of these instructions, you've left the user completely guessing.
Okay, last thing. Let's quickly touch on how captions are actually delivered to the viewer. There are two main types you're going to run into: open and closed captions. They both get the same job done, but they do it in slightly different ways.
Open captions are literally burned into the video file itself. You can't turn them off. This is great for making sure they work everywhere. Then you have closed captions, which you definitely know from platforms like YouTube. They're a separate text file that the user can turn on or off with that little CC button. This gives the user control, which is almost always the better way to go.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question to ask about your own content. Is your video story being fully told to every single person who watches it? Because at the end of the day, creating good captions isn't just a technical requirement. It's right at the heart of inclusive and truly effective storytelling.